There's a lot of abuse that happens. I worked with an incredibly emotionally abusive producer.
Alleging inappropriate behavior, writing he offered her alcohol while still underage and that he gave her a back massage.
You say the network offered you $300,000 in hush money?
Jennette McCurdy is exposing some of the dark secrets behind the scenes of iCarly and what it was like to work with Dan Schneider. I'd like to give a huge shout out to my friend Sarah who put together this information. Go ahead and check out her socials linked below. But she shares how Jennette exposed Dan for pressuring these kids to drink and pitting some of his shows against each other, like iCarly vs. Victorious. Here's a moment between Jennette and Dan where Jennette says, "I've never had alcohol before, and I'm only 18. Couldn't I get in trouble?" He says, "No one's looking, Jennetter." I guess a nickname Dan gave to Jennette. "You're fine." And she says, "I don't know." He says, "The Victorious kids get drunk together all the time. The iCarly kids are so wholesome. We need to give you guys a little edge." The creator always compared us iCarly kids to the kids on his other hit show, Victorious. "I think he thinks it'll make us try harder." She refers to Dan as the creator throughout this book, I think, to try to protect herself. But I don't think that Jennette is lying, because I do believe the Victorious kids would turn up. And I guess it was Dan supplying them the booze, because the Victorious kids would get drunk together all the time. And the creator, Dan Schneider, was encouraging Jennette to drink. An actor that was on Victorious made a TikTok in 2020 where he claims he did not remember filming any of Victorious because he was out every night partying. So this actor was on this show and does not remember filming the show because every night they partied, which aligns to what Jennette is sharing here, which is a bad look for Dan because he would give his actors who are minors and under 21 alcohol. There are a few pictures of pages of Jennette's book that have been circulating around, and I want to read you guys a couple. The page starts off with a bunch of horrible names that Dan Schneider would call them to make them feel worthless. She writes, "I feel that I always need to be on guard around him, catering to him emotionally. I feel the same way around the creator as I feel around my mom, on edge, desperate to please, terrified of stepping out of line. Put both of them together in the same room and I'm overwhelmed. The creator orders main courses for us to share, something with lobster and pasta with meat and a flatbread. I know my mom won't approve of me eating any of these foods, but I know the creator will be offended if I don't eat them, and he will comment on me not trusting him or thinking he has bad taste. So I pick at the food as convincingly as I can, hoping the creator will believe me and my mom will know I'm not eating." She speaks about a time where I guess they went to lunch together, and she writes, "So the reason why I invited you both to lunch," the creator starts. He takes a long sip of his old-fashioned while my mom watches him, eager for him to finish the sentence in the way that she wants it to be finished. I guess the point of this conversation was to tease Jennette with her own show, because he took them out and told them, "I want to give Jennette her own program." And the mom accidentally dropped her fork because she was so excited to hear this. If you guys watch my video specifically about Jennette's mother, you would know that Jennette's mother wanted to be a star herself. And because she wasn't, she forced Jennette to. And she pretty much lived through Jennette's child career. But Dan said, "I even have the name picked out. Just Puckett. Isn't that a fun name for your own show?" Her mom says, yes, it is. It's a very fun name. He says, "It can't happen for a while because iCarly is doing too well. We have to wait a couple of years. But if you keep doing what you're doing and listen to me and take my advice and let me guide you, I promise I'll give you your own show." Jennette writes, "And even though a part of me appreciates the creator, a part of me is scared of him. And the idea I'll have to do everything he wants is intimidating to me." Her mom said, "Why don't you seem happier? You're getting your own show." Jennette said, "I'm happy. I lie. Very happy." Her mom says, "Good." She glances at me in the rear view mirror, "Because you should be. Everyone wants what you have." Now let's go through some of the accusations that Jennette has made about Dan.
Alleging inappropriate behavior, referring to one figure only as the creator, writing he offered her alcohol while still underage and that he gave her a back massage.
So Jeanette shares that the creator not only offered alcohol, but also gave massages. He paid the most attention to his stars, which I don't know what that means. But then there are claims of Dan Schneider being verbally harmful, where he would throw insults, screaming, controlling minors until they felt bad. Not only did he threaten kid actors' careers, but he had also threatened the adults around them. Jeanette writes, the creator was mean-spirited, controlling, and terrifying, firing children over basic mistakes and making grown men and women cry with his insults. And I guess it got so bad with Dan Schneider that in 2014, he wasn't allowed to have direct contact with any of his actors, which was requested by Nickelodeon, which means people went to Nickelodeon and complained, and then they requested him to stay back. We've heard Jeanette share this before in an interview, and here's a clip of her speaking about Dan.
That sounds easier.
It certainly is. Bad parts. I mean, there's a lot of abuse that happens. I worked with an incredibly emotionally abusive producer. Even talking about it now, my face gets hot thinking of it, just because, you know, he'd say things like, you guys will work you would work at Yogurtland if you didn't work for me. And he would just scream.
How old were you?
I was, when I started the show, I was 13.
So when Jeanette eventually left Nickelodeon, they offered her a pretty penny for her silence. $300,000 for her not to speak about the creator, aka Dan Schneider.
After Sam and Cat was canceled after one season, she writes that Nickelodeon attempted to arrange a $300,000 thank you parting gift for her, only if she agreed to never publicly speak about her experiences at the network.
So I've been doing my research, and I found a few different interviews where Jeanette speaks about this, and I want to play this first interview because when I hear her describe it, it almost seems like she accepted the $300,000.
Let's talk about what happened at Nickelodeon with this person you call the creator. You say the network offered you $300,000 in hush money?
I have seen some of these headlines. I've seen a lot of headlines about the book, and I'm really glad that the book's receiving a lot of attention. That's awesome. That's wonderful. What I will say is that the book is so much more than that. My book is so much more. It cannot be reduced to a headline. My life nor this book can be reduced to a headline.
But they did offer you the money and you did turn it down?
I have said everything that I want to say about that in the book. I hope people, you know what? I hope that anybody whose attention might be piqued by these headlines will consider reading the book, because I've said everything in as articulate and thoughtful of a way as I can manage.
So it seems like Jeanette didn't want to answer that question, or maybe she wanted to, you know, keep people wondering and reading the book. But in this interview, it seemed like she decided not to take the money, but she did question it because it's a lot of money she could have put to good use.
In response, Nickelodeon telling ABC News, we have no reportable response other than a no comment at this time.
I just said, no, it's not happening. That sounds like hush money to me. Not doing it, not taking it. And then I do remember leaning against, I think I talk about this in the book, but I lean against my bed and I'm like, well, shoot, that could have put my nieces through college. Like, that was some good money. But I am ultimately proud of my decision there.
Honestly, I wasn't surprised to hear that she was offered this money, because our friend Alexa Nicholas, who was on Zoe 101, was also offered money at some point for her silence. So it seems like Dan just did a round and asked everyone, because I wonder what point like she was offered this money, if it was right after she left or a few years after when he was let go, but it seems to be a theme. I'm glad that Jeanette McCurdy is speaking out, but honestly, I do feel like there's some type of NDA, something that she's like holding back, because if she didn't take this $300,000, then why won't she go into much detail about Dan? And honestly, when I was doing research for this video, she's done a lot of press when it comes to this book, but she really doesn't speak about Dan, which is a huge character. And it seems like maybe these like networks were asked to not ask about Dan, and for whatever reason, maybe she's trying to protect him, but really protect herself, because I don't know what type of legal power Dan really has here. But anyways, I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Bye guys.